Hello, you're listening to the Dougie Sharpe podcast. My guest today is a snowboarder, YouTuber, a freelance creative, and someone who's been a huge inspiration to me, Liam Stevens.
Hey, Doug.
Hey, man. How are you?
Dude, thanks for having me on.
So happy to have you here, dude. You were someone who was like massively inspirational to me as I was coming up. So it's good that we can sit down and have a chat now.
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, your sort of big rush through it all has been very inspiring for me too. As we're both grinding away, I can look at you and be like, all right, Doug's doing it, and he keeps going after it and getting some success. So
you were on it first though, dude. Like you were the first person I remember looking at where I was like, this guy's focused. Like you were super focused on it for a long, even still, but like when you were doing your like weekly snowboard edits, like you were so good about like coming down into the kitchen, cooking your food, and then like right back on it. And I was like, dude, this guy's getting it.
I appreciate it. I mean, I've always just been trying to figure out how to make it work. I just always wanted to snowboard for my whole life. So it's like, gotta figure out one way. And it's pretty easy when I'm coming home from snowboarding all day and cooking my dinner while you guys have just worked like a 12-hour construction shift and like they're getting after it too. Like, I can't really be complaining about playing on my computer, but I know what you mean. It's, I love just working on it.
How did that transition happen? Because snowboarding was where you came from. And then at some point you were like, okay, I got to add something to this program, which was YouTube videos. Like where did that idea kind of all come from, or how did the thought process go?
Yeah. Well, I mean, ever since I like started snowboarding when I was 7, skied before that, growing up in Rosslyn, Kootenays. And I knew pretty early on, I was like, I want to do this for the rest of my life, and moved to Whistler when I was 15, and then rode some contests till I was like 19, 20. And I had like some success, but nothing was really like going too far. And I was actually in Australia driving my buddy's car back to his place, like a 2-day drive basically. And I was just like flying down the highway, listening to podcasts. I was like, I gotta like do something. Like I gotta figure this out. Like there's definitely like, I'm not going to X Games. Like I gotta like figure something out. And I've always watched YouTube and always like loved and seen people gain success from that. And I thought that would like really suit my like natural interest in snowboarding and filmmaking. And I was like, all right, you know what? I'm just going to do a video a week for an entire season. And then, so I got back to Whistler, figured I'd just use my phone, or no, I had made a couple of videos the winter prior. So then I was like, I bought a little DSLR camera and made a video every week for that winter. And that was five years ago. That's how it all started. I was just like, I need to figure something out. It's still not working necessarily to its full potential, but like I've learned a lot over those past 5 years for sure.
It's funny you say that because I was on the exact same thing of like, I got to figure something out.
Yeah.
Like I got to figure something's got to come together. I don't know what it is, but like I got to figure something out. I mean, you say like you haven't found that much success, but like you got a video that's hit like almost 6 million views, which is, there's something to that, you know, like you have seen some success and you've got 16K on your channel now. Like, so that's a fair level of success YouTube wise, I would say. Yeah,
no, you're right. I think we're just like as creative. So like,
oh dude,
I mean, looking like 20 steps ahead, I'm like, I know where I want this to be and all these things I want it to do. And like, it's crazy to look back in a year, and I have to do it more because like a year prior to this time of year, I was at like 900 subs, had maybe like the highest viewed video was like 10,000 views. And then within a year now, we had that crazy 6 million view video, all the subscribers. Like it's done so much. I've learned so much in that past year. So it's good to look back. Yeah. And not always be looking so far forward that you're criticizing the current state.
Dude, I do the same thing. Like I think a lot of people talk to me like, oh, like congratulations, this and that. And I'm like, it still does. Like there's still so much hunger there where it's like, and I always do wonder like what point do you hit where you're like, oh, okay, that's it. Like we crested the mountain now, and it's like I don't know if that's ever there. There's a good video from like John Mayer, the singer, where he's talking about like before you release an album, you got to put like a number on like where I'll be happy. Yeah, you know the one I'm talking about.
I've never seen it.
Oh,
but
he's saying like you gotta say okay, 10,000, or else you're always gonna be looking like there's no mountain, there's no peak of the mountain, you know.
I nodded because in my head I have that number.
You do.
I haven't crossed it yet, but I wonder because you know, like even to me, like sitting prior to 1,000 subs, like crossing 1,000 subscribers because it took me like 4 years, felt like a big thing. Like I have a video recording in my room. Like I called my mom, like this is crazy. Like I did it. Like I hit 1,000 subs. Like this is wild. But then we got to 10,000 in like a month. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, like it didn't have that same sort of thing. So I wonder if like once I cross that point that I had the number I have in my head. Yeah. Am I gonna be like, yes, I made it? or is it just going to be like, oh, but there's the next number, like
yeah,
sure,
yeah.
100,000 is cool, or like for me it's mainly like just being able to like live the life I want in a way that's sustainable. That's like, that would be super sick for me.
Yeah.
But you never know, because once you get there, then you're like, oh, but you know, like those new sleds are pretty sweet. Like I can get into there. So,
yeah. YouTube's hard sustainably though. Like,
it's such a volatile deal.
It's so, the fear is so real too. Like every day I'm just like, I wake up and I'm like, is this the day? You know, like, is this the day it all fell off? You know, like, it's a hard environment to live in, but very exciting, very fun. At least you don't know what's coming.
Yeah. And I think it makes you appreciate, because I think a lot of times there's false senses of security. Like you're like, oh, I've got this corporate job, it's gonna be sweet. And I don't know, because I've never worked any of that stuff, but like you hear people losing those all the time, but then you're in this false sense, like I'm gonna be making this much money for this amount of time, everything's sorted, and then you lose your gig and you're like not ready for it. I feel like we're both ready for this all to come to zero tomorrow. And be like, wow, well, that was expected, you know? If it goes good, it goes good, but it could just all come crashing down, and at least we are aware.
I'm always ready to walk back onto the construction site.
Yeah, you know, one foot out, 1 foot in.
Just like, if it does all come to zero, like I'm always ready to go lay some more pipe and be like, oh, that was fun. You know, like I enjoyed that. So
yeah.
How'd that first season go? Because the first season of putting a video out every week was tough. I'm guessing like that is how long were they all, like 10-ish minutes, right?
Yeah, like 6 to 10 minutes probably,
which is, that's an aggressive schedule, a video a week, 6 to 10 minutes every week. Like,
I mean, my taste was pretty poor at that point, so I don't like, it's kind of one of those things, like it's actually probably gotten harder now to put a video out every week, even like with all the learning I have, because the bar is so much higher. Back then I had like, we'd film all day, I'd like barely cut anything, and then it would go out because I'm like, this is sick. Like I love all these board slides I did in this video, all 25 of them, you know, like I had no like care for thinking about the audience or storytelling or anything like that. But of course it was hard for sure. Like it was a grind. It was new to me to be like in that and trying to like film every day versus just, you know, like having that more casual schedule. But I did it. I think I did 25 videos in 28 weeks or something like that the first season. And then the second season I did it again. I think I got like 24 in 27 weeks or something in the winter. And then, like I said, as I actually learned more, it got harder and harder to keep that consistency up. So
because you wanted so much more from each video.
Exactly, yeah. Like I was looking to dive deeper into the edits. The production got like more complicated, and I just wanted to bite off bigger things, I think. Yeah. So even this year, I mean, you learn as you go, and I'm hoping this year I'll get more consistent on the format. I think we're choosing different video ideas compared to prior years where we were more vlog style. I think we're going to try more idea-based things that are more like formatted, and we're hoping that's going to make the difference.
Fair.
Saying we, it's just me, but
Oh, there's a we. It's the proverbial we, you know. But you do work with a lot of people. Like it's not just you out there alone. Like there is a loose team that you work with, you know, as far as like friends and filmers and it takes a village, you know, like unless you're out there kind of like singular GoPro styles, like it does take a village to make these videos, like especially snowboarding where you need people helping you film and you help other people film, and you know, there's more than one person to the game.
Oh, it's amazing. I actually have been really impressed. Like, I mean, coming from snowboarding where I've been so lucky, especially being in Whistler, we have such like a tight-knit community with like you and our friends, you know, like we give each other feedback. We're like there for each other. We ride with each other. And when I first started being a creator, those first 2 years, it was very like lonely. Like there's no one to talk about it. And now with you getting into it, and I've got like these other group chats that I'm a part of, like the videos that I make, they're like filmers, editors, people giving feedback. Like there's been so much to create all these videos. Like anything that you see on my channel has like, you know, 6 or 7 people's hands on it, or just like eyes on it at some point.
A little bit of feedback, a little bit of help.
Yeah, which is so cool. And I think it's really fun. Like, and that's what I've loved with you being in it so much, is like we get to just nerd out. My biggest worry was coming into this, like, dude, me and Doug are going to talk for 3 hours, and we're probably going to talk about stuff like that's so maybe nitty gritty about filmmaking or whatever. But yeah, it's been really fun having other people that are so inspired by it and like see the future of it, because I think that can also be lonely when you've got this dream that not all other people really understand what you're gonna, like why you're striving for that or what it entails. So it's cool to have people like you who like feel like you see what I see, which is fun. Yeah.
Well, you've been like great for me in that side in like a couple ways, like watching you those first couple seasons and then adapting that to my own style of being like, I do have to say no to a lot of things, and I do just have to be like, you know, in my room just creating by myself, because there's so many distractions and so much noise and so many people come do this. Why aren't you hanging out? We've got this party tonight. And you're just like, I need to create. Like I need to feed, I don't want to say feed the algorithm, but I've got to like keep this moving. And if I stop, everything stops. So, you know, for these couple of years or for this bit of time, I just don't have much else to do except create and try and move these things forward so that they can at some point become sustainable and like max out the lifestyle. But it's been something comparative or different between the two of us is like, I'm much more like, just put it out there. It's really grimy and basic. Like you're such a student of the game. Like you take tons of courses and you're in these groups with other creators and you're really studying these things. And I think that's hit your storytelling more than anything else. Like your storytelling is fantastic. Like what drew you to those courses? Because I tried one. I remember you gave me one and I was in it for about a day and I was like, I'll just figure this out on my own. Versus you've studied much more like the kind of the back end of the story of how to put out a video. Yeah. How's that been?
It's been good. It's funny because that course that Doug's talking about is called Creator Now. And Doug, they have a leaderboard and Doug's like way up on the leaderboard.
Am I?
Yeah, you are. Yeah. No way. Well, yeah, you're such a successful creator, but I don't think you've attended one session in it, which is awesome. I'm like, oh yeah, there's Doug, top 10, let's go.
Really?
Oh yeah. Well,
no way.
Because it's based on like an XP thing of like subscriber growth and view growth. And like you've been so consistent. And that's something that I've taken from you is like, don't get always so caught up in it. And is like, figure out a format and like flesh it out. Like take your learnings, apply it to the next one and like just keep working and not get too caught up in it. And it's worked well for you. And I think that's like something I want to pull is like taking a lot of that learning that I got from that course Creator Now, which I did, it was 2 years ago I started. And that big video that I have to attribute a lot to that course because going into it, like I kind of came from the more, I guess like snowboard realm where we don't really have too much snowboarding or storytelling in traditional snowboard media. Like there is some of the corny pieces, but there's not like sort of that YouTube storytelling. So anyways, I learned a lot of the things that I implemented in that video from that course. And that was a big reason why it blew up. And now I'm trying to find that balance of like how we can develop a format and kind of go through it. But it's been a lot. I've definitely learned a lot of things over the last couple of years. And I enjoy it. I definitely like trying to figure it out. That's kind of like my big thing. I can't like leave something until I understand how it works.
Fair. Yeah. I need to get better on my, it's funny now that like moving, I'm always going to do like my quick short fun facts. Like I will always do it, but now moving into like other kinds of media, like doing the vlogs and like the longer form stuff. It's like such a different game. And like the YouTube long form game versus the shorts game is so much harder. I definitely have more respect for like long form creators than I do for like short form creators like myself, where I'm just like, it's a much harder game to actually make those long form videos go and hit. And then I think you're right. Like inside of snowboarding, there isn't much storytelling. You get those random videos every once in a while, like it's The Eternal Bliss of Snowboarding.
Or The Eternal Beauty of Snowboarding.
God, I love that movie.
Yeah, that's an amazing movie.
And that it is amazing just because it is telling like a nice, consistent story the whole way through. And I think you'll win on that end eventually. As you keep putting these videos out, they're gonna start to hook in.
Yeah, make it cater towards that snowboarding audience. Yeah. So I did that Creator Now course, and then this summer I got really lucky. So from that big video, I applied to a course with this guy, Patty Galloway. So Patty's been in the YouTube space for the past like 10 years or so, probably even longer to be honest. And he works with big creators like Mr. Beast or works with Jesser, who's like another sports creator, Noah Kane, like huge creators. And he did this course where he took a bunch of applicants, narrowed it down to 50 people, and then he did like a 9-week cohort. And so he did a couple of them this summer, and I got to be a part of one. And that was like such a blessing that came from that video because I learned so much from him. And one of the big things was like story structure. So that's kind of like what we're talking about with short form. And I'm experiencing now too, like the short form story structure is quite simple. And then when you start looking at long form, there's so many options and so many different things you can do. And the story structures that you can implement are like so much more complex. And it's cool to learn from him and for him to like show all the different types of story structures and how to structure a video and use storytelling in a way that can be, I guess, advantageous to your content style, but also not having to be Mr. Beast or not having to be a Noah Kane, but can like take what they do and make it like take the fundamentals and apply it to snowboarding. So yeah, lots of like foreshadowing. Like I try to implement that stuff and Yeah, it's really fun. I haven't really figured out how I'm going to do it this year. I wish we had better conditions and I could come in here and be like, dude, I did those couple videos and they work so well. But yeah, I feel like I'm kind of in this section right now where I'm kind of like taking all this stuff that I've learned and trying to apply it to the videos and see how they work. Like that series that we've just started doing where we pay people for tricks. Yeah. Where the first trick's $5, the money doubles every trick and it keeps going from there. That's like basically taking like a game show format and applying it to snowboarding and like meshing the two and then seeing how that works. And that one's really good, like a storytelling example. And that would be like, first trick's easy, it's going to be a board slide. And the next trick you go, all right, it's only getting harder from here. Like these are like simple retention tactics that you can use to like, it's, you know, apply storytelling to snowboarding that I feel like doesn't always happen. It's usually just trick after trick after trick. And just kind of banger edits. I
really like the one it was the back 7 off the backcountry jump.
Oh yeah.
Recently. That one was, dude, that one was gorgeous. I remember you sent me that one for feedback and I was just like, damn, dude, like I wish I could create like this, you know, like there is like still such a side of me where I look at other people's stuff and I'm like, this is so good. Like I wish I could create like this. Like I still feel like there's so many holes lacking in my game where I'm just like, that one was gorgeous. I really, really liked that one.
That's funny. I feel like we're always jealous of other people's stuff, like either their styles, their formats. And I think that's the cool thing about YouTube is like like snowboarding too, is you see out someone else's style and you're like, I love how someone tweaks their back 7, like the way they put their hand up on their indie grab or something. Yeah. And I feel like it's the same with YouTube. It's like, oh, I love how that person told that story, or like I like the way that they like, you know, transition from this scene to this scene. Like I'm gonna take that and then put it into my own content, and then you become this like amalgamation of all the stuff that you watch. Like I'd say my snowboard style is a lot of like is sort of built from other riders that I watch, and same with my video style. Like from someone like a Chris Chan or something who's a great skate creator to like even to you with like your more format based stuff. Like I just like to take and try and mold it into like what I want to see in snowboarding, you know,
how you feel it should look.
It's funny. Yeah. Like I created my channel because like the stuff I wanted to watch didn't exist in snowboarding. Yeah. And I still think it doesn't exist because I haven't created those things that I want to see in there, but it's amazing. I think it's really changing. Like the amount of conversations I've had, and I'm sure you've had coming into this year, people seeing a lot of interest in the space is really cool. Because for a while there, like I said, those first 2 years, not only was it like lonely in the creator space, but there wasn't any snowboarders who were really looking at YouTube. And now it's shifting a lot where there's a lot of shredders who are like, I see this as a way for me to like separate myself and to give more value to brands and to connect with an audience and like, so it's cool. I hope snowboarding can find a space on YouTube because it's there in a lot of other niches. And I think it provides a lot of growth to the sport and can be really good for the sport and be really good for riders too, giving them like another way to generate income so they're not so reliant on brands. I don't know how it's going to work or how long it's going to take, but I look at it very optimistically personally. I think it's going to be good for boarding.
I find it super interesting because like I was kind of, not to say I was a future thinker, I was kind of on it like 2 years ago. I was talking to our friend Marcos, who's an editor as well, and he was like, dude, I was watching those like Don't Call It a Vlogs you did like 2 or 3 seasons ago. He's like, those were really good. Like why didn't anyone want to get, and I was like, I don't know. And he's like, it's funny because that's what everyone wants now. And I was like, I don't know, just ahead of the curve, you know, like I just kind of, not that I saw it or anything like that, but it's funny now that everyone's kind of seeing almost like the travel vloggy side of things. And I'm sure it also comes down to like salaries with brands, like that changed a lot during COVID. And I think everyone's looking for that like sustainable income once again. Like you never know when your contract's not going to get renewed again. So what can we build on YouTube that we're now going to come up? And then you look at like a guy like Marcus Cleveland and you're like, okay, that's working
great for him,
really well, you know, like how can I emulate that and bring that into my own program where one, brands want me more because I have the exposure, and two, if they don't want me, I'm sweet because I've got like the ad revenue coming in. So
my audience wants me, like I'm beholden to like if I create good content for them and they like it, they'll continue to support me, and that's what's gonna like keep my career going more. So whether one person thinks I'm going to market their brand well or not. Which is a different space. Could provide more security, hopefully.
We'll see.
Someone I think who is really ahead of the curve. Like if Torstein.net existed today and was putting out those videos, he would be like a YouTube sensation. Yeah. Like Torstein.net was 10 years ahead of its time. Yeah. Even McMorris.com. I don't know if you were on there.
Yeah, dude, I do remember. And those pop up in my feed every once in a while, and you watch them and you're like, these are hilarious.
Yeah, they're amazing.
And super ahead of their time. Like, super ahead of their time. Those were great little skits that him and Craig used to do as well. There's some hilarious ones in there.
Have you ever watched the one where it's Craig's in a bathtub with.
I was
like,
just thinking about that one. Yeah, and he
hat.
calls Mark. He's like, they're gonna get me if you don't do like a
backflip to switchback lip.
Yeah. That's so funny. That's the exact one I was just thinking.
It's one of the best ones.
It is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, that one has some legs on it. Hopefully it comes back. The people need to remember.
But there was no distribution back then. That was like the big difference. Is like I remember like typing in markandmorris.com. I'd go there. I'd watch the video. I'd send the website. But like YouTube didn't exist in the same way that like platform would push content. Like the algorithm was so different. And there was no monetization strategy. So it makes sense that they made those videos. It probably was like super cool and people liked them, but they never like probably drove things as much as today if you created something like that.
It hooks super hard. And
but no one's even making stuff. Like even like, I mean, this is something that I'd like to do more is like games of In Your Face or games of snow. We all loved those.
They were so good, dude.
And they don't exist anymore. And I think because it's difficult to create and it's expensive and like there's not as much money and it's hard, of course, but like, I think as riders, we all love that stuff. And it's so interesting that it existed back then and it hasn't happened.
No one's been able to bring it back properly.
Yeah.
Like you tried. You did a couple games of snow, didn't you?
We called them games of head to head.
Right.
And I think this is where it's hard with snowboarding is because you have like a pretty niche audience. And like YouTube is basically like, I got this from Pat Galloway's course. It's like you can break it down into two things. It's interest and delivery. So your video needs to have interest and then you need to deliver that interest to the audience. So if you look at your content, like you have interesting facts. It's like the backbone of your content. And then you have a good delivery of them that's consistent. It's like to your own T and you like are super clear. Your writing's really good. That's like great delivery of the interesting fact. For snowboarding, like if I were to look at my videos, like head to head with X rider, the interest of that is only if you know what the game is and if you know who the rider is, are you going to be interested in that. So it doesn't really matter how well I deliver it if you're not interested in the first place.
Right.
So I think that's where snowboarding is really hard is partly because we like a really cool culture. We want things to look really cool and to be unique and to be outside what people understand. But then you've got like, I don't know, Boogie Party is the name of the video and it's some like random screen grab where you have no idea what's going on and it's a sick ass video, but like nobody knows that from the thumbnail. And that's like kind of just how the platform works to some degree. So I think that's the hard thing is learning how to develop that interest where you can grab the majority of the snowboarding audience if that's who you're going for, and then maybe even outside, and then deliver that interest to the audience. And that's something that like Marcus Cleveland does really well with like say a super small snowboard videos or you know, things like that I think we have to learn how to do that in snowboarding. But I think that's where those like on my side, those videos fell flat, was just like not understanding how to package them towards the platform.
Yeah.
And that's why they missed.
Packaging is super interesting and it's something you talk with me a lot about.
Yeah, we talk a lot about packaging.
I'm super bad at my packaging and like luckily with the way the shorts work is I don't need to be great at the packaging just because of the...
Well, you're really good with your hooks though, which is basically your packaging on a short. Like, you grab attention within the first second.
Yeah,
That, like fun fact finger like gets you right in there.
Dude, I've had to start being really flexible on the fun fact now. Just with like the way things have kind of been like growing, at least it goes out to such an audience now that people are getting so offended by the fun fact sometimes. There's
really?
Like, what was fun about this? How could you possibly say fun fact? You're a horrible person. There's nothing fun about this. And I'm just like, so now I have all kinds of like mental rules now of like does someone get injured? Okay. Did they get deathly injured? Yes. Okay, then it's just a fact. Do they get injured? But then it's okay. Well, then it's a fun fact with a question mark.
My favorite ones.
You like those ones?
Yeah, because I know usually they're fun facts. So then when it's a fun fact, you're like, oh, what happened? Like, what side of the line are we going to be on this one? You just want to know so bad.
Dude, it's actually funny now because now people have learned that shit too.
Yeah.
And I get it in the comments all the time. And same thing. Someone's like, oh, fun question mark fact. Like fire. I knew this was going to be fire. So I actually re-recorded one this morning.
Oh, okay.
I edited the whole thing and then watched it for final review and was like, I'm going to get destroyed.
Yeah, this is not fun.
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is fun.
Yeah.
But if the wrong person sees it and is like, this isn't fun, I could get destroyed for this one. So dude, I went back, I re-recorded the whole thing, re-edited the whole thing while I'm like watching the clock. I'm just like, I gotta leave. But yeah, now I've had to become, and it's something people talked with me about like so long before of like, you're gonna have to flex on this fun fact. And I was like, no flex. And like, if you go back and watch some of the ones from like February or March, I'm like, ooh,
Yeah, should have flexed.
Savage. Savage. I can't believe I fun factored that one. Like, I got to make it private and I'll remake it at some point, you know, because it's just too savage.
That's funny.
But yeah, the packaging's super hard for long form. Like, just trying to get it right and make sure people click on that link. Like, it's really hard. It's really, really, really hard. And thumbnail design is equally difficult. There's a lot of things that go into a long form and that you just don't really need to worry about on the shorts. So
yeah, it's a simpler format. Yeah, but it's still hard. Like, it's still got its own things.
Little tweaks in that.
Yeah.
But you've done a couple like thumbnail courses as well. Like, you've done courses on everything, man. Every time I talk to you, you're in a different course of like, oh, I'm studying this now and I'm studying that now. And it's definitely made you such a good student of the game and comes across in your content of like good thumbnails, good titles, like good deliveries. It's just, the snowboard industry is it's a tough nut to crack for sure.
Yeah, it is. And I like the courses. I think, so Creator Now I'm still in. I've done for 2 years.
You are still in it?
Yeah. And
I should have a look at it.
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, I mainly use it again for that community side of it. So like, I've got a group chat that's like sort of associated with Creator Now, and it's like 20 creators. And we've got this little Discord group, and every week people are chiming in, either posting like breakout content, like stuff that's doing really well on other niches, on small channels, like things that are popping off, or people asking for packaging feedback, or, you know, like this morning some guy was asking about if anyone had operated a camera while riding a one wheel. And I was like, oh, I actually filmed a whole thing on an electric skateboard for a brand one time. So like things like that, where we can just share information of, you know, random stuff that no one would like, you can't ask that to general other people, because they were like, no, I would have no idea about doing anything like that. And then Patty Galloway's course was this summer. I did that over the like August, September, and that was a big one. And that was really cool. I think the really great thing that I liked about that course was, sometimes it can be tough with YouTube is people just give you their winning lottery ticket numbers. Like if you were to tell me the things that you did on your channel to become successful, and I applied them like without mine to my channel, it wouldn't work, because it's direct to you, who you are as a person and your style of content, and no two people's is the same. And I think that's can be a lot of the YouTube advice. So something that was really impressive with Patty's is he took all these people that he's worked with throughout the years, and he broke it down into fundamentals. And he said, here's the fundamentals of how the algorithm works. Here's the fundamentals of different ways you can do packaging. And there's no one way to do any of this stuff. This is what works here, but you basically just have to try it and then alter.
Yeah, and based on what works.
Yeah, and I think that's great. And it's the same thing with snowboarding. Like there's probably the most efficient way to do a backside spin, but there's no like perfect way to, you know, do X, Y, Z. And there's different ways that you can adapt it. And each different rider is going to learn differently. Like, it can make sense for one rider go up and do one every single day for 3 months straight and he'll get it. And some other guy needs to like sit on the couch and think about it, or maybe work on other stuff to come back to it. Like we all have different ways of learning. So that was really nice for me. Is Patty is just like, I think, a very intelligent guy. And I think anyone in the space would say the same thing. And so nice to see some fundamentals there and to try and apply that to my channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How has the freelance been for you? Like, your first kind of freelance work was with Dot, right?
Yeah, it was one of the first gigs. So I was basically laying bricks with my snowboard coach for a bunch of years, and I even worked for Cheeseburger Painting with Rube Goldberg for a year as well. Although I didn't really paint, I just taped. Yeah. I think I was.
Is it actually called Cheeseburger Painting?
It's called Cheeseburger Painting.
Sick.
If you need your house painted in Whistler.
That's the one.
He loves it because he's got this big cheeseburger sign. So his thing was like, oh, you paint some $10 million house, then you put this big cheeseburger in the front lawn. And I just thought that was so funny.
That is pretty good. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does really good work. And for 1 year, the taping was really good as well, I guess. I took a lot of pride in my taping, but they never let me go on the brush. But anyways, but I was doing all those kind of jobs, and then I was like, well, I'm doing this YouTube thing. Like, I have some gear. I could probably just spend the summers making videos for people, and then I can take all that learning that I learn on the job and I can put it towards YouTube. So just getting paid to learn, and then I can reinvest into the business. And so I did a couple free things. I filmed my buddy's wedding for free. I did some real estate stuff. And then my buddy had an in at an electric skateboard company. And I just hit them up and I was like, hey, if you guys send me a board, I'll do a review video on my YouTube channel. So they sent a board over. I did that. And they're like, hey, we need someone to run our social. And I was like, okay, well, I can probably figure that out. So that was the first big contract, was with Dot Electric Skateboards. And we did like 2 years together. And I learned so much working with them because they had some really intelligent guys in their marketing department. And they've been such a cool company to work with.
Yeah.
And from there, I just like started picking up freelance gigs, and now we've transitioned to another brand that's underneath their umbrella. So I'm doing work for FXD Workwear, which is underneath the Globe distribution umbrella. That's sort of who I work for there. But I'll do other stuff. I've been making videos for a stone carving gallery, and like pretty much anything that falls on my door, I'll go do in the summer, just so I can make the cash to then invest into the channel in the winter.
Yeah. But it's good to be able to apply that stuff as well. Like, and it's good work, you know what I mean? Like, and you do good work, and therefore you can, you'll be able to start to charge more for it. And then it can support like these passion projects that you have throughout the winter, which has got to be the right way to do things, like.
Yeah, it's one way to go about it. I always talk about like circling. Like I have, like your dream point. Mm-hmm. And like at first I was way out here, you're like way outside the circle. Like I want to do that, but like right now I'm working construction, and then now I'm working freelance this summer. So like, I'm circling in, and then like, the YouTube channel's working. Like I'm circling closer and closer. And like, as you like get there, you're kind of like doing more gigs that are more aligned with what you want to be. And so right now, like the business is probably, it's 70% freelance, 30% YouTube income, and it's still under, like, I wish it was fully supported. I'm lucky enough to have support from my parents as well. So there's times where it doesn't fully make it and I have to go calling home, and it's a bit of a mixed bag for me. Like I feel very grateful that I have that opportunity. And I think like I've been able to be a bit more of a dreamer and a bit more like risky with the way I've done it, because I know I like can go broke and I can run home and go sleep on my parents' couch and it'll be all fine.
Yeah.
But part of me still, like 26 years old, feels a little ashamed that I haven't like always figured out how to put groceries on the table every day. But that's what's given me the opportunity too, to be like, okay, I'm going to do these things that are a little bit riskier, and hopefully it'll pay off down the line.
Yeah. Try
and look at it like a startup. Like you're basically taking investment capital now where it's not profitable, and YouTube's super non-linear in the sense that you can work, like right now 75% of my working days are free. Like they don't pay at all.
Yeah.
Like all my hours I put in throughout the year, 75% of them don't generate income. But once they start generating income, hopefully then we'll be in a better spot, and
it's enough. Yeah.
Then we can start I don't know.
Yeah. But it's that unicorn. It's you say buy the Porsche?
Buy dad a Porsche or something.
Buy dad a Porsche. I was
he loves the forest green old school Porsches. Pretty expensive, but that's like the dream,
Yeah. But it is just the investment for that video that hits. Like you had that one that's just about at 6 mil now, which is incredible. And it's the same thing for me kind of monthly. Is like there's only like 4 or 5 videos that actually work.
Yeah.
I put out 30 in a month, but like 25 of them do nothing.
And it's so tough because I don't know about you, but I believe in every single one of them to the same degree.
Yeah. And then it's so funny though, because like you talk to some people and they're like, why don't you just make the good ones? And you're like, like, dude,
buddy, if I would, if I could, I would.
Like good advice. Like I hadn't
you,
thought of that yet, but like I will start applying that. Very smart.
Right. Just do the good ones.
Yeah. You must be the CEO of a Fortune 500 company.
Yeah. Like don't make flops. It's super easy.
Dude, it's genius.
Land your tricks, you'll win the contest.
Yeah. Dude, exactly. Like first place every time, baby.
Yeah.
I've been super lucky in that as well. And I have thought about that a lot throughout my life. Like my time living in China, or like other super risky endeavors I've been in, of just like, I always got like a mom and dad's couch to go sleep on. Like worst comes to worst. And like, we do have a couple friends that like don't have that privilege. And like, I specifically remember speaking to someone about money, and I was like, oh dude, like I'm like going broke, like I think I was like, I owe like $500 on my credit card. And he was like, dude, if I have less than $3,000 in my bank account, like I'm panicking. And I was like, whoa, what a different perspective it really hit me hard of like, that's a crazy perspective in life, where like you don't have the safety net, and like that is your, like you are your safety net, versus I don't have to think about that. Like I will always have places to stay, or like people who will help me, and like not that I can freeload, but
your friends and family that would take you in if things went bad,
or loan me money, or whatever went wrong. And like I've had a couple eye-opening moments in my life where I'm like, whoa, that's lucky. That's like, it's super lucky to have that. Like, what a privilege to have these people around that are just like, it'll be fine,
Which is why I can't I wanted to bring it up, because I can't like recommend to necessarily follow the same. Like if you're not in this situation where you have that backbone, like I wouldn't recommend just like quitting your paying job and doing something that doesn't pay very well.
Yeah.
Because like, I mean, it took me 4 years to make a single cent from it.
Yeah.
So it's like, don't go all in. if you can't afford to go all in. You know what I mean? Like
it
doesn't necessarily make sense, but definitely chase your dreams. Like definitely go for it. Just do it in a way that you're not risking the farm kind of thing.
Oh,
yeah.
for sure.
And like, because people are like, a lot of people ask in my comments, like, how do you do this? Like, I see you going on these trips or like you're doing these things. And I'm like, sometimes it's hard to hit it in the comments and be like, okay, man, like, you know, like this is how the whole situation's working. But, you know, I think it's driven a lot of my decisions. Like, I think that's why you kind of see that focus for me a lot, is because in my head, I've never like found that success. So I don't want to ever like take time away from trying to figure it out or spend money on things. Like, I think it was a big reason why I never really started drinking was just because I was like, I'm like, mom's paying for me to sleep tonight. Like, especially when I moved to Whistler, like they moved me out to Whistler. They stayed in the Kootenays. I moved out there when I was 15. I was like, I'm not going to, like, they're busting their ass so I can be here. I can't like go out and just go drink. And then I just kind of never got into it. But like, it's interesting how that's always been in the back of my mind, and it's kind of like driven the way that I make decisions, I think. And it's affected, things like that of not drinking or even like doing coffee. Like I'm just like, I can't spend that money.
Fair.
But then I'm very not frugal in other ways, because like, I'm like, I want to be a professional snowboarder. So like, I'll spend as much money on going to the gym and as much money on like healthy food. And like, if it's traveling for the thing or buying the next camera, like I won't even think about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's very interesting how like the things that you're striving for really shape the way that you want to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Or where finances, dude, I'm the exact same, you know, like flight. Yeah. Fine.
No problem.
You know, like no problem. Easy. Like this other thing that I actually really need. And I'm like,
yeah,
I don't know, you know, like, it's very interesting where like your desires and goals will shape how you want to spend that money.
Oh yeah. Like even for us, like, snowmobiles, the worst thing you can spend money on ever.
Dude, they're so expensive. It's crazy.
And they depreciate like 50% in the first year. And they're like, they go 5,000 kilometers and then they explode.
Literally.
Yeah. And that happens in 3 years.
Yeah.
Like it was unreal that we spent, and I'm like, in my head, I'm like, no, like I can put it against business, be fine. Like I'll spend 10 grand on this thing and be worth nothing in 2 years. And like, it's going to be great.
Yeah.
You know, but then I'm like, that t-shirt's $40. I'm not going to buy clothes this month, you know?
Yeah, dude. Yeah. It's funny. I'm actually, health is one that I hate spending money on. I'm just
it's funny.
Oh, dude, like chiropractor, like my back really hurts and my hips really hurt, like $140. Like, yeah, right, dude. And then, you know, like brand new iPhone that I maybe do but don't need. It's like, I do record all my videos on an iPhone. So like, may as well go get like the most expensive one I can find. It's dumb, but yeah.
I'm pretty good at purchase confirmation, especially when it comes to YouTube. People, because I definitely love to research gear and stuff. People ask me.
The best.
I'm so good at being like, oh yeah, you definitely need that.
Yeah.
Like,
you convinced me to buy a laptop once.
Yeah, I did. I remember that. But it's been good though.
Hey,
right?
It was honestly one of the best decisions I've ever made was that laptop. It's been just fantastic. I know. Yeah. And now they got the new like M2 super giga whatever ones out. And I'm like, I've only had it for a year. Like I really have to I got to put the blinders on that one and just be like, don't.
Oh, you buy and then you just close. Like, It's the worst too, because you've been searching on YouTube all this different gear stuff. So you're like in the algorithm for that product. And then as soon as you buy it, you just have to be like, don't recommend. Because you're like,
get this out of my face.
Yeah. I can't see if I made the wrong decision now.
Yeah. Oh, dude, I know. But I love the fresh kit, especially anything to do with like where you're like, well, it will help me, you know? And it's like, no, you're fine. Yeah. You're fine. Like, you don't need that.
It's such a balance. Because there is times, like even say, like yesterday, we were out shooting on the hill. And like, we have certain mics that are fantastic, but they don't have time code. So then they come out of sync and you're like, if I had time code right now, we would have been fine.
Yeah.
But we didn't, because it was more expensive. So it's like always walking that line of like, what's the right thing to spend your money on? But then it's like, if you can't afford to do whatever. So it's YouTube videos, especially in snowboarding, are difficult to make, which is one of the reasons I think that they haven't crossed that line into that space. Because if you're a skateboarder, you just go to the skate park with a tripod and you can make a video.
Yeah.
And your buddy can just come over. It doesn't cost him anything.
Yeah,
He just walks from his house or takes the bus and he's there. He can film all day. Versus like, you know, you have to buy gear, have a season's pass, get on the hill. The camera has to handle really cold temps, deal with snow, deal with difficult audio, be able to move the camera throughout. Like, it's so hard.
He's got to have a board. He's got to, I mean, just getting him on the mountain is a couple $1,000
Exactly.
if he doesn't have his kit already.
Yeah.
And most people who have a kit want to go snowboarding. So
exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why like snowboard filmers are as expensive as they are, because they provide a lot of value, because they can do a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I was just in El Salvador.
Yeah.
Okay. Filmed on a red, 4K footage, like, dude, the most gorgeous footage you've ever seen in your life, $50 for 2 hours.
Oh, that's insane.
It was insane. I was like, how is this guy charging? And then I did obviously come to I was just like, oh, he just had to buy the camera. Yeah. He lives here. He just walks. It doesn't cost very much. He just walks to the beach. But
he sits on sticks too, and he just pans.
That's exactly what he does. But it was crazy, like looking at the camera from the water and then being like, I can't believe I'm paying $50 an hour for that. And like usually I pay what, like $250, $350 for 4 hours for someone to hold a GoPro. And I'm like,
yeah, exactly.
This is wild, you know. Like,
if you want to red on hill, you're $1,500 an hour.
Oh, easy.
Or sorry, $1,500 a day. Yeah. Day rate $1,500. Easy.
It's wild. It's wild. Snowboarding's so interesting too, because like there are creators. I don't want to lip anyone off here. I don't know how to say this properly, but there's like this really big difference where it's like there are these kind of very basic creators who are doing like more like headcam stuff, and it's probably just because it's more relatable to the everyday person that it does quite well. But like I do look at some videos and I'm like, how is this channel popping off? Or like, how are these videos doing so well? And I just think it is the relatability, but it does do my head in a little bit. Like it's a very interesting space where there's like very like nice high quality production, but it comes from high level riders, so it's probably not as relatable.
Yeah.
But then there's like very low production value, like low quality, just like a full like 8-minute run down some run, and it's like hundreds of thousands of views, and you're like, what?
I know.
How is that happening? Like,
and that's
weird.
That's the interesting thing. And I think that's why there's like such apprehension from like the snowboard industry towards YouTube, is because they're like, dude, we've just filmed the sickest thing. It's the best snowboarding. It's the best production. And it's got no views. And then this dude's putting a like GoPro on his head and he's getting tons of views, way more views than we are. And I think that can be like a tough pill to swallow. And I think, I mean, you can say it's the algorithm's fault, or you can say like, you can just substitute algorithm for audience. Like the audience wants to watch that headcam video more than he wants to watch the high production value video. And that can be hard because we value, especially us who like love snowboarding and love high level snowboarding. It can be hard to say, well, like that we think, you know, that we know more than the audience kind of thing, but we really like these things. And I think that's where it comes down to the interest thing, is like more people are interested in those other videos than they are interested in your super slow-mo, really good turn. And that doesn't mean that there's not space for both of them. I just think that they have to have different strategies to like sort of feed those funnels. Like I think snowboarding being on YouTube is actually going to free up more space and more funds and build the sport more, so that people who want to just film like a traditional video part and do really good snowboarding, I think it's going to give them the opportunity to do that, as well as these other people who may not have always had the skill sets but know how to make videos that cater towards like the broader snowboarding audience. And then now like I always look at it like both those people had the same dream of they want to snowboard for the rest of their life. Like they love snowboarding and they want to do it. One guy's really good at snowboarding, the other guy's not very good at snowboarding, but they found different ways to cater towards snowboarding as a whole, and now they can both live that lifestyle.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's one or the other. I think that's like more of a family mindset. I think it's a growth mindset. I think they'll both figure out a way to support each other. Although I don't really understand brands spending like $20,000, $30,000 a year to put their riders in a movie that's going to get a couple thousand views at the end of the day.
It's weird.
It's super weird.
I still haven't wrapped my head around it either, and I think it's just tradition.
Yeah, I think it is too.
Yeah.
And I don't think video parts should go away. I just think that like the way to monetize them might change throughout the years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is weird a lot, and it's so random too, the projects that hit and then don't hit, but it's because we lost the movie premiere. Truly. I think like that used to be like the main reason to like to like put your money into a video, is then like your riders would go on tour and do premieres, and like there are still a couple crews that will do that and like travel around Canada or the US and do like movie premieres, and it's like a community thing and like a big event, and then it's pretty rad. But like just for like a sole like one premiere gets put on YouTube, it is crazy sometimes how much money will go into these videos, and then you're just like, whoa, 50,000 views, eh? Like that's crazy. Like it should be way more. And then like, is there a return on investment there? Like is the funding going to dry up when the brands are finally like, okay, the return on investment just isn't here. And then where else does that money end up? Because it probably won't end up with core snowboarders. So at least I'm happy knowing now that like if those brands are spending that money for movie projects, at least it's going towards like core boarders who like should have that money. Like they should have that money.
Oh yeah.
They got to figure out how to get the projects out there better, or make them work more to everyone's advantage. Like,
yeah, I agree. So that it like promotes the rider, promotes snowboarding, it gets to a broader audience.
Yeah,
it's a tough thing, and I think everyone seems to know that it's changing right now. Yeah, and of course, like I'm in this space, I've been in this space for a long time, and to me, like you give me 20 grand, like I could do so much with it, and that's kind of the different thing. And I think that's what brands are seeing. They're like, man, I can give this kid on YouTube 20 grand. He's gonna get me 100,000 hours of views on my product, like, or 100,000 hours of watch time on my product. Like that's a big return on investment there versus doing the traditional flick. Like, am I going to get that kind of return? And I think hopefully that just pushes like riders and brands to figure out different ways to do it.
Make more relatable content. More
relatable. I mean, that you can still be really good snowboarding, because I think everyone still appreciates good snowboarding. It's just that interest side of it. Like,
yeah.
Like, how are you packaging it so that it actually can get to the snowboard audience? Because now if you're going to YouTube, you're sitting there with all the other really high level content. Like, I think it's just different. Before, you used to make a movie, there'd only be a couple movies come out every year. You go to the snowboard shop, you'd buy it, and they would make their money off of that and off of premieres. And now, like, you don't sell to iTunes, people get all their stuff for free. Like, you need to figure out a different way to get that out there. And the brand identity means a lot too. Like, those riders do a lot for the culture of the brand. Like, the image you have in your head of that brand come from the riders. Like, they do so much to shape the identity of it. So they're definitely needed. Like, we'll have to figure out how we can do this.
Yeah.
But it's a hard thing to figure out.
And it's going to be interesting to see how it changes over the next couple of years, because there is going to be some kind of a change. But I still love the project coming out. Like, I do still love like the hype and the anticipation and the build up, and then the video comes out and you're like, oh, that was sick. For me, the big problem now is like it's almost like fatigue. You know what I mean? Where there's like so many projects that come out like back to back to back to back to back.
It's like, you're like, it's been 3 times a week for the last 3 months.
I can't watch them all.
No, you can't.
I can't.
Yeah.
It's so much. And
none of them can be as good as they used to be. You can't have that much media and have it be at the same quality of riding as it was prior.
Yeah.
And I think that's the big difference too.
Well, some projects used to be like 2-3 years.
Yeah.
They'd sit on footage for 2 or 3 years.
Yeah.
And I mean, you can't do that anymore, just progression wise. But there's so much stuff coming out all the time.
Which is hard for the riders too. I think like the pressure to be able to create something that quickly. Like, if you have a year like right now, like we're at the end of December, hasn't snowed at all in BC. You only got 3 months of, you had 4 months to film a video part. Now you have 3, and they're definitely not going to give you a 2-year, and your contract does up in the fall. Like, it's a lot of pressure on those riders to create something. It's hard. Like, I don't envy those guys. It was one of the reasons why I went away. I was like, I don't want to, for one, no one was offering me contracts, so it's pretty easy for me to say. But I didn't want to be beholden to something like that. Like, I was like, I would prefer to be like, this is up to me. Like, it comes down to the end of the day, if I make the videos, they're good for the audience, then it works. But if I don't do that, then it doesn't work. But it's not like if I go do my thing, bust my ass all winter, film a really great video part, and the brand didn't manage their finances well, and then I don't have a contract, like, that's a different story, And we'll see. I mean, YouTube runs its own things. If recession hits and no one's got marketing budget, then we don't get ads on our videos, and it's the whole thing too. But I like that there's more accountability towards like what I'm doing day to day within YouTube. And I mean, I'm not doing brand deals. I can add a whole nother complexity, but there's lots of ways to make money on YouTube if you can create good videos for an audience. And
I like the independent side of it too. Like, no one can really tell me what to do.
No,
like YouTube can tell me what to do a little bit
to some degree.
They're pretty mellow about it, and I don't make crazy content usually. But I do love that aspect of like, there's no reps, or there's no marketing person, or there's no strategy person. It's like, you got to kind of fold this in or fold that in, or we want to see this or we want to see that. And like, I've still never done a brand deal for that reason, because every time they send me something, I'm just like, ugh, guys, no, like we're not doing this. You know what I mean? And I just won't, maybe it's a bad strategy and maybe I'll regret it someday, but like, I feel like talking about the audience is like, if I'm going to sell my soul for a brand deal, like if I am, it's got to line up with the audience. Like, I can't just like I hate when you see like an ad on Instagram and then you scroll through the comments and it's like, oh, someone had to secure a bag, like, all right, get your money, but like, don't make this a regular thing. And it's just like, dude, that sucks. And it sucks. It's so transparent as well. Cause then why'd you even do the brand deal? Right? Like, no one benefited from that in any way, cause the audience is kind of pissed off and no one's going to check out that brand cause they know the creator was just taking a check. So like, what was the point in the end of selling your soul in that way?
But brands just want that control, and it kills it though. I totally agree. Everyone I've tried to work with, it's just like, we want this thing, and I'm like, it's not going to work for my audience. And that's like number one.
Yeah.
Like, that's what matters. And on it, like, I think too, and I'm a huge culprit of this up until like what I'm trying to make the shift from is like, I think a lot of the snowboarding content can be a bit selfish. It's for the rider and it's for his rider's 10 friends, because those are the people who are at the brands. Like, you're trying to satisfy those people. But the issue with that is snowboarding is way bigger than that. And there's like hundreds of thousands of snowboarders out there who don't know how hard that Switchback 7 was. But we're making videos that really cater to those 10 people that we're trying to satisfy, which is sick. And like, I still want to make videos that like the people I look up to and the professional snowboarders in the world can come up and be like, hey man, I watched your video. Like, your riding was really good. I really enjoyed it. But I also want that video to cater to the other guy who's like, hey man, I drove up from Richmond 3 hours this morning. I'm learning my first 50-50. I saw your video. It really helped me, or something. And like, that's that, like, being able to make videos. And this is way easier said than done, but like, can actually, you know, satisfy both those people. Yeah. But right now, I think a lot of snowboarding content doesn't actually satisfy the homie who's driving up every weekend. No. You know, he has can't afford a sled. He's not snowboarding every day. He's not doing those hard tricks. He has no idea like anything about those videos. And that's all the content that's out there. And it's still good. It still exists, but it's like, I think there needs to be some way to like give something to that guy, to give something to snowboarding. Cause I think that's what really matters, is like catering your videos to the overall snowboarding audience and capturing that like core casual new audience. Yeah. And I think that's why the headcam stuff does so well, or just like some random 8-minute video of someone riding POW where like we watch it and we're like, what is this? Yeah. But then, that guy who's driving up every weekend and, you know, just has a 10-time card is like, I understand this. Yeah. That could be me. Versus, versus like watching us do like a back 7. And he's just like, no, never. No one hit that jump. I don't know. You know what I mean? It's like, it's that relatability that I think we're all going to have to like, it's such a, like you say, like appeasing, like, your 10 friends who are watching your video, but then also making it for the audience that just isn't this on that level, but can still somehow enjoy it, you know? Yeah. Like those videos of the like 8 minutes of relatable snowboarding with no audio down a groomer, they're not for us. No. But you know what? They're for 100,000 people. And they do well. And they do well for those 100,000 people. And there's a balance to that. Like sometimes I wish that because the people making those videos don't have as much time in snowboarding, they may not always give the advice that maybe is the best snowboarding advice. But at the same time, they're like growing snowboarding and they're giving back to people, and people can all learn and grow together. And like the community that's built there is really good. So I think there's always gonna be space for both of them. But yeah, it's hard to not make content like that, because even me, if I look at my content, like a lot of my stuff last year was like me going to do this thing that I think is really cool. And if you know who I am and you like these cool things, then you might like the video. But otherwise, it's pretty much just for me, you know? And that's a hard thing to look at and be like, okay, my content's kind of selfish. And how can I look at this and be like, how can I actually satisfy snowboarding and do something good and grow snowboarding and make something for an audience and actually satisfy them? Because that's what I love when I go on YouTube and I watch a video and it's satisfying to me. Like, that's why I'm there. I want to care about something. I want to enjoy something. And I think those people are thinking more about me than they are of them sometimes, you know? And you have to like, there's creators, these group called Colin and Samir, and they talk about content market fit. And it's, you have to make something that you enjoy, something that the audience loves, and then something that the platform is going to want to have. So that means that you can go out every day and make those videos. So for me, that's like going up on the hill and snowboarding. The audience is going to want to watch it, which means like, you know, you're catering to a certain portion that is actually engaging with your video. And then like, you know, it has to hit the stats. You have to get above 60% view versus swipe away, and you need to have like 80% retention if it's above 40 seconds, you know, like it has to fit what the platforms want, which is they want you on the platform for a really long time. Yeah. So it's like, it has to hit all those things, and these are hard things to do, especially when it hasn't been done in like the space that you're trying to do it in. Yeah. But it's just finding that magic click, you know what I mean? Yeah. Once you get that formula locked in, then it'll all go, and it'll go over and over and over again. Yeah. Which is something that I'm always very impressed with you, that and I think for a long time, people didn't see the value. Like, how can you turn this into something? And I think that was really cool of you to like, you stuck with it and you're like, I'm going to keep doing this format over and over, and I'm going to perfect it until it hits. And then I've got this thing that I can just keep with. And the fact that you stuck with it for so long, I think shows a lot of resolve and is a big reason why you've been so successful. Yeah. Dude, I can't believe it worked. Yeah. I can't believe it worked. Like, if I'm being completely honest, I still wake up every morning waiting for there to be like a camera crew in my room. It's just like, Doug,
you may have thought you made it on YouTube, but you've been punked. Like, back to the construction site with you. And I'm just like, you got me. You got me. Like, I still, dude, I can't believe it worked. It's crazy. It's honestly, it feels like it's still a dream. I don't know if it'll ever feel like super real.
Yeah.
Or it's just like, how, like, how did this happen? It's crazy. But yeah, the consistency was huge. The consistency was like insane. So
it's really cool. Do you get like a sort of an imposter syndrome? Like, is that kind of what you're talking about?
God, dude.
Yeah.
Especially too, like, dude, like, I'm not that good of a creator. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not.
You always say that, yeah.
I'm not that good of a creator. Like, if I win anywhere, it's my writing skills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the writing's good, but like, I'm not that good of a color corrector. I'm not that good of an editor. You know, like, I look at other people's stuff and I'm like, this is edited way better than mine is. You know, like, I look at like your stuff and I'm like, Jesus, like, look at this color and storytelling, and there's these beautiful captions and these nice transitions, and it's like, the imposter syndrome for me is just like, why me? And like, why not these other creators who I have way more respect for and I think do way better than I do? And like, I just, it's such a mystery to me. I'm like, I'm so grateful for it, but like, I still don't understand it, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Like,
if I were to look at it from a guy who spends a lot of time on what can just be sort of fluff, is that like, you have what matters. And I think you've really, like we've been talking about, like, you figured out what is good for the audience, and then you've doubled down on that, and you haven't gotten distracted by, you know, being vain and making the colors look better, or like lighting yourself in a certain way that like, you're just like, how can I deliver this interest to this audience in the best way possible? And that can be the hard thing. Like, I mean, I've gone through a lot of these courses. A lot of the time it's really easy to get bogged down in like, well, I've got to do this crazy thing, or like, it's got to be like seamless transitions, or I've got to do these things, or the color's got to be good. And especially me doing freelance, like if I'm working for a brand, the color does have to be good, but it doesn't always have to be good. Like, there's a certain level of it. You just have to satisfy what the goal is. And sometimes that means like, take off the color correction. Don't worry about this. Just make sure the audio is good and the quality of the content's good and the idea is strong, and deliver that to people, and don't get caught up in all like the other bullshit that's kind of there. Yeah. It's like holding your grab and not landing the trick. You know, it's like, yeah, you look sick, but you didn't ride away. Yeah. It's like, it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. Like, it doesn't matter if my videos look really sweet if they're not good for the audience. And I think as over time, you know, like, you land the trick and then you start getting the grab, you style it out and you start riding away more. But it's like, it's figuring out that balance. And, you know, don't undersell yourself, you know?
I can't, I still don't get it. I do, but I just, I don't know if I'll ever come into a place where I'm like super like comfortable almost, or like, oh, I like, this is mine kind of thing, you know, like it always just, it just feels like it's gonna slip through my fingers at any moment, you know what I mean? It's so weird.
It is a funny thing, hey, how we're like so willing to go through, like, it's a very uncomfortable thing to do a lot of the time,
dude. Especially like relying on views for your living. And you know, like, I always think about like, at what point does my popularity fade? And like, does it? Maybe not. Or does it? Maybe. But I think like, and a lot of people think I'm weird for saying this, but like, always being prepared for the end kind of thing. Like, I am always prepared for the end. Like, if I were to wake up and just be like, okay, well, it all went to zero, you're going back to the construction site. It's like, well, at least I knew what kind of potential I had in me. You know, at least I got to see my full potential, which was a huge part of this from the start, where I was just working construction, and not that there's anything wrong with that.
No,
like,
it's a very good job.
It's a great job. I was making good money, but I was like, I just feel like there's a little bit more, and I wanted to see what it was. And thank the Lord it worked out, you know?
Yeah. And I think it's like how much your identity is tied to the viewership and tied to the numbers that is like the popularity of your name. If you're like, this is great, and you know, like, I know that I put in the work, and if it ends tomorrow, that's fantastic, but like, I don't need to be 100K this or whatever that, or like, if you can separate yourself. But yeah, like, and that's kind of the thing too. Like, I think we're talking about a lot of manual labor jobs. There's definitely nothing wrong with them whatsoever. No. It's just like, I think both of us just had an inkling where like, I know I want to do this, and I have to go try and figure it out, and like, and just go see. Yeah. Because that's what I look at it too. I'm like, I know that if at the end of the day this doesn't work, I can just go become, you know, an electrician or a carpenter or whatever, and that's a fantastic job. You make really good money and you get to live a good life, and that's that. But like, I gotta know, and you gotta try.
That was me too. Like, I gotta see. I gotta see. And like, there was a specific day where I was working, and I was just like, I was like 30, and like looked up the job site, and I was like, okay, 35 more years of this. That's what you got. And there's nothing wrong with that, but I just feel like there's something else. And if I hit that, you know, if I hit 65 and I wake up and I look at myself in the mirror without having tried, I will never forgive myself. Like I had to try. And I laid myself out like, 5-year goal. And I think I have like, I think there's almost 24 months left. I'm almost 3 years through it now.
Which is really cool.
It's pretty sick. It's pretty interesting now. Like I was actually looking at, like, I have a calendar and I was looking at it the other day and I was like, dude, it was 3 years ago you sat there and looked and were like, let's find out. And it's crazy now to be like, whoa. Yeah. Apparently there was a little bit more in the tank, you know? Was
the path anything like you thought it would be in how you got there?
No. Not really. I just, it was quicker. Than I was expecting. I mean, the first year was like real estate, right? Like I was a real estate agent for a while, which was not, I don't know what I was thinking with that one. But the first year was like real estate. So that was kind of a wash. And then coming into like the making videos thing, it was just like, I just didn't know what else to do and just had like some fucked up shit going on in my life and was like, well, this is done. It had done pretty well. Like I had the TikTok channel at like 32K because I'd done like a couple months before and a bunch of people in my life had been like, you should start doing those fun facts again. And I was like, all right, well, I'll just post a fun fact every day for 6 months. For 6 months, I'll post a fun fact every day and we'll see what happens. And then like the anniversary of that 6 months was the day I got monetized on YouTube. It was like literally 6 months perfect. And I was like, well, I guess I should keep doing this, you know, like this is obviously working out for me. But like, no, it was a lot harder too. Like, it's funny. There's been a big trend on Instagram now of people being like, I posted every day for 30 days or I posted every day for 90 days. And I'm like, I've posted every day for like 510 days, you know, like keep going. 30 days, 90 days. It literally means not like you have to do this for years consistently over and over and over and over and over again. And it's super hard and it takes a lot of time, but there will be a pop. You just have to find yours. You know?
Like consistency is a big thing. Like I think too, even if it's you don't see it on the posting side, like I had in the first years a habit tracker where I edited every day for like 120 days straight or something. I just had to open the laptop and like get in the software because like I know that I just need to like build this habit of working every day on this thing. And that was the big thing to like get it going, is like you're just always putting in. And now I just do 6s. I do 6 days on, 1 day off. Right now we're on day 9, but it's just because we're going home for the holidays. But
I need to get better on my days off. I keep getting like what I would call like forced days off, where I hit a certain point where like literally my body and my brain are just like, no, I'm sorry. You've pushed us too far. Now we're going to give you a massive migraine and you're going to lay in bed all day. And I'm like, okay, that's not healthy. I might need to figure this out a little bit better.
It's hard because like the really hard thing I think with YouTube is that it's completely infinite. Like the more that you work on it, the better it is. In theory, like you can never do enough. And that's really hard as a human who has limits, you know, like, and I don't think working every single day is actually healthy. I think you're going to make worse content overall, or you're going to have a worse life. Like the whole reason we're doing this is to live a good lifestyle. And if every day you're just miserable sitting at your computer and like just feeling terrible, it's not worth it at all. But it's hard when the incentives are aligned to do that. But I think I learned like, because the same thing, I'd burn out, and that's a huge thing for creators is burnout. And I think every person has a different schedule that works for them. But for me, the last 4 months or 5 months, it's just been 6 on, 1 off. And on the 1 off, it's like I don't look at it. Just be a pile of shit, and I just like hang out and do nothing. And that works for some weird reason.
I got anytime I do take a day off, I do the same. I literally hide my laptop from myself. And like won't touch my phone, like won't touch my analytics on my phone. I will go on my phone, but like there's no checking views, there's no like checking comments. You know, it's like you literally have to be like offline for 1 day and then be like, okay, now I can come back. Like dude, how did you feel? This is something that bothers me about other creators. Is like talking about this burnout, or like you know, how hard the algorithm can work you, or how hard you work yourself to appease the algorithm, however you want to say it. Like there was a big movement there of creators to be like unionize, or like the social media networks need to like give us more information on the algorithm so that we can like not burn ourselves out or whatever. And I was just like, I would see these videos coming across like TikTok or Instagram or whatever and just be like, like, you guys think this is supposed to be easy?
Yeah,
like,
I know.
What do you on about right now? Like, what are you talking about, unionized creators? What are you talking about, the algorithm or YouTube giving us more, doing this? It's like, I don't want this to be easy.
No.
At all. Like, it's really, really hard, and that's why it's valuable.
It should be really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a crazy movement, and I was like, one, you guys are soft. Like, this is soft, and two, like, that's why you get paid. Like, that's why you're here, is because not everyone can do this. You have something people want, and like, it's on you to manage those things and those expectations, not on the social networks or anyone else to figure that out. Like, you personally have to figure that out.
Yeah.
And like, it's savage, but like, the less people are here, the more views I can do. You know what I mean? Like, like, there's only so many to go around in a day. Like, I'm not here to protect other people or like jump in some like, let's unionize creators. Like, no, come on.
It is the dream job. And like, there's no free lunch. Like, you know, from working a hard construction job, like, it comes with its toll, and it's for you to expect that you can go and do something where you get to do what you love every day and there not be hard parts about it. Like, it's just unrealistic. And I do agree. I mean, I think that's the hard thing, especially like, I struggle with that too. Like, with social media, like, there is a lot of mental health implications of what those platforms do. And if you are someone who's contributing to them, like, what's your onus as a creator towards it? And for me, like, I just try and make stuff that I can be like honest and ethical about, that aligns with my values, and I like putting stuff out there that I think is good for the world, and that's how I do it for me. But even me, as someone who creates for social media, I don't keep it on my phone. Like, I don't keep YouTube on my phone, I don't keep Instagram on my phone, I don't keep TikTok on my phone. Like, it's off. And because like, I know that if it's on there, I'm not gonna be able to do the things I need to do at the end of the day, which is to go snowboard, make videos, spend time with my family. And so that has some level of hypocrisy to it, for sure. But I know that when the work's done, I download it and I enjoy it, and I try and, you know, balance that to the best that I can. And I think as far as like the algorithm not liking things, I think sometimes the algorithms incentivize the wrong stuff, like Instagram incentivizing people to just for channels to rip other content and then just be repost channels, which I think are super lame, because it's just stealing other people's stuff and reposting it all the time. But the algorithm loves the consistency, so it promotes those channels. Like, I think there is algorithm issues, but most of the time it's just like, you're not making good shit. Yeah. It's just the reality of it. Like, dude. Like, if I look at my channel, I'm just not making good shit when the stuff's doing bad. And I think that's just like, it's a hard pill to swallow.
It's a super hard pill to swallow. And like, I think that's what I was hearing more than anything else when I was listening to people talking about,
like, your videos suck. Like, I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Like, I'm really sorry. And like, I make videos that suck too. You know, like, not everything's a smash hit. You know? Yeah. So hopefully, it's just accepting that a little bit. And dude, it is such a, especially if you've been doing well, you know what I mean? Like, you're just number 1 out of 10, 2 out of 10, you know, 1 out of 10, 1 out of 10, and then 9 out of 10. And you're just like, the algorithm is doing something wrong here. And it's like, no, you just sucked today. And that hurts.
And sometimes it takes time, and it's hard to have that confidence in yourself, because you are like, everything we do has tons of data behind it of why it was good or why it sucked. And that is a hard thing to do. But I think with anything, like in snowboarding and in content creating, like, you have to be willing to suck. Yeah. And I was something I learned, it took a little bit to learn. And I think like my coach from Whistler Valley there, Joe McAdoo, like, taught me, he's like, dude, you have to be willing to do stuff that sucks, because it's the only way that you're going to get there. I think even now, in a lot of my life, I struggled with perfectionism. Like, I want it to be a certain way, and I'm not going to move forward, or I'm going to get stuck in this thing. But it's got to be good before it can be perfect, and perfect is the enemy of good. So it's like, you have to be willing to just like take all that data of why you didn't land the trick, of why your video sucked, and then make some action points and apply it to the next one, and not get caught up in it. But it's a really hard thing to do. Yeah. And especially when the bar changes, like, that was a big thing for me last year, which was really hard. Was I went from getting 1,000 views a video, and if it got 1,500, I was like, holy shit, like, you know, we did it. 2,000, I've doubled my views. Like, that's where the bar was. And then I did 2 million views in a month. And I'm like, okay, well, is this the bar now? Yeah. Like, where do we go from here? And I think I had developed some skills to make that video, but I didn't necessarily know why it attracted the sort of viewership it did. And that was hard to like, okay, well, now I'm trying to make these crazy videos, and I didn't post for a while. I couldn't, like, the mental side of that is tough. Is like, pretty much every creator I've talked to has had something blow up, and they had no idea how to handle it. And it was hard to like figure that out and come back from.
Yeah.
But usually everyone does.
Dude, it's hard. It never makes sense.
No, it never makes sense.
It never makes sense.
And I don't know about you, but like, I'll be completely honest. That big video, I was like, this is going to flop. No one's going to like this video.
Dude.
Yeah.
Always. It's the weirdest thing.
Yeah.
Anytime I put one out there where I'm like, I kind of hate this, but you know, I just need to post something. Like, I made it and I don't really like it that much, but it's going out, and then it's just like, whoa, like huge.
Amazing, yeah.
And you're like, what? And then you put something out that you're like, banger, absolute banger, straight to the top, and it does terrible. And it's like, I think that's almost the ego side of things. Sometimes I think like, maybe because I think it sucks, I put more effort into it subconsciously without knowing it, versus the one I think is great, I put less effort into because I'm like, oh, this is great.
Yeah.
But it's so inconsistent. And people have said that to me. They're like, why don't you go through all your top ones and figure out what you did here and what you did there? And I'm like, if you look at my top 10, none of them are similar. In any way, shape, or form. Different topics, different subjects. One of them is like super old and like sped up like double speed. It doesn't make any sense.
Why it went,
and it's like did amazing. So it's super inconsistent, and like there's so many like external factors that you can't control. Just like where people were at that time, or was there a similar search word that was going on at the time that you didn't actually know about, and you posted into some beautiful thing that was happening somewhere else in the world. And it's just you kind of just have to like Jesus take the wheel styles whenever you post something, and if it does good, like whew, great, thank God. But if not, then we move on and we post something else, you know. And
it's kind of like processes over outcomes. Like instead of looking at, okay, what was that short got this outcome, what was parts of this short that maybe drove that, or what was the things that got that short out there? Well, it was me posting every single week for 6 months. That's what delivered that short. So if I want another one of those, sure, take a look at it and let's identify, like, was the hook good? What's the retention like? What's this topic all about? Like, do your best, but also look at the process, which was like you just consistently working at this thing. And maybe that was more of just like what got you there is you're just like constantly, going over it.
The algorithm finally was like, okay.
Or you're just like, you learn a little bit every time, you know what I mean? And like the process of just working at it, like if you just keep working and learning, then you'll get there.
I think there's a lot of random things that happen that you wouldn't, like, especially like editing wise, like, sorry, not random, like process things where you're like, you are learning, but super subconsciously, and like you're not even realizing that you're doing. I find that with lighting more than anything else. Lighting was one of my hardest things to learn. I still struggle with lighting all the time, but it's happening more and more now where like I load a video into Premiere Pro and I'm like, whoa, I lit this so well.
Yeah, because it looks good right off the bat.
You're barely touching it on the color, and it's like, I didn't actually put any effort into learning it. I just did it so many times over and over and over and over and over again that it was like, now it's second nature because I looked at it so much and I redid it so much where it was like, okay, now I just understand this just from having done it so many times.
That's the other skill set things I think people don't see. Like, and even what I have to look back on, like a year of me going into Premiere Pro, like how clunky I was or something like that with my edits. Now it's like, I don't even have to think about like how I do my imports or like how I set up this, like the structure of how the project works or something. Like for me to do a shoot with like 4-channel audio and 3 mics and put it in log, and then like I put it into like the raw timeline, and then I do my cuts and I put it in there, and then I do the A timeline and like hammer this out and do all the subtitles. Like it takes way less brain power than it used to a year ago. Like I couldn't complete the edits I do now a year ago in 3 times the amount of time. I just couldn't get there. So it's like those are the things that I think you always kind of don't think about, is these skill sets that you're developing on like the production side sometimes. You're just like, this doesn't take, just like how you learn a back 7 and at first it's really hard, and then you do them a couple years and you're like, I can do it on any feature. It doesn't matter.
Just anywhere.
Yeah.
You did a lot of other stuff too. You tried a lot of different things when you were first starting out.
With videos?
Yeah, you had a podcast for a while. You were filming all sorts of like random little things. Like you really did work hard to diversify your skill set, but also like try just a lot of things when you first kind of started out.
Oh yeah, well, just throwing shit at the wall. You're just like, I don't know what I want to make, but I just know I want to make things, and I don't know like what my style is, what my content format is, but I just know like I want to make stuff. And then you have, as a person, like multiple interests too, and I think that's hard for an audience. Like there's probably not an audience that's into like, mountain biking, backcountry gear, snowboarding, and 3D printing all at the same time. So if all that's all my content, then it's like, it's kind of weird. But when you're starting out, you're like, I don't know what's going to be it. So yeah, I grew up mountain biking as well. And when I was a kid, I wanted to be like not only a professional snowboarder, but a professional mountain biker. The kid dream, you know, multi-sport athlete.
Yeah.
No problem. And I did ride bikes for a long time. So I made a lot of like mountain bike videos that were on there. And then I tried like gear reviews. So like, you know, testing GoPros, doing the whole breakdown, tutorial things with shredding, and then like more the vlog style. And then you just find like, okay, I don't really like making those videos, or like maybe the interaction isn't very good, and just like kind of find your way into like what is sort of what you want it to be. And then aligning with an audience too. I think like that's me thinking now more of like, okay, if I was a viewer, like I wouldn't understand subscribing to this person if they just had stuff all over the map. Like I want to subscribe because it's like, I think about it like a restaurant. Like I love going to Chipotle. We went before we came here, but it's because we're driving down and I'm like, okay, don't have that much time. I want something delicious, kind of healthy. And I've got this level of consistency in my mind. And I know I can go to Chipotle. It's going to take 15 minutes. It's going to be delicious. It's going to be full, and I can leave. Like that's why I went there. But if I went to the restaurant and the menu changed every week, I would not keep going back because I had no idea what I was going to get. You know what I mean? And so I kind of look at channels like that too. Where I was like, I want to be. Sometimes some channels might want to be the more fast food route where, you know, you get like something of average quality, but the exact same every time for a little bit of, you know, cheap input. Or you want to be the fine dining restaurant where you get something, you know, it's within the French cuisine level, but it's an absolute masterpiece and it's slightly different every week, or they do specials, but you're like willing to invest a lot of money or time into this content, but you're going to get this like masterful thing out. And then I think that's where like you get a difference between like a Sam Sulek who just does like these live stream videos of talking for hours in a gym versus like, you know, an Eric or a Max Fosh or something like that, where they spend a whole month on a video and you get this perfect piece of content, and both are good. They're just satisfying you in different ways. You know, like I like going to Chipotle and I like going out to like fancy restaurants, but sometimes I want one or the other. Yeah. But yeah, try and look at my channel in that way.
Fair. Yeah. That's funny you bring all that up because that's almost exactly where I'm at right now, where like I'm throwing things out again, you know what I mean? Yeah. Almost like not starting over, but like now trying to figure out, okay, like what's the next thing that people want to see, you know?
Well,
like
just like Chipotle, like toss out the carne asada. Like, do people like this? Like we've tested in kitchens, you know, like maybe this is a new menu item, but like we also still do the same thing you love coming for. Yeah. And that's another thing in that patty course too. Is like, everyone's got different content strategies. So like, some people have one consistent format and then every month or so they try something new, but they always keep that one thing. Or maybe they only do bangers, like bangers only, where they're one video a month and it's a different thing, but it's crazy production value. It's super highly leveraged. It's this crazy thing. And they do that once a month. Or you do like what is most common in snowboarding right now, which is like basically just like machine gun spraying, where you do like a pretty average video every single day, every month of the year. And that satisfies a certain level of audience too. And I think it works. It's just a different strategy than the bangers only. And it's like they satisfy different audiences. Like none of them are wrong. They're just different content strategies. And like as you learn and grow, I think you just have to do different things.
Just figure it out. Yeah. The growth is weird. It's weird growing inside. You wouldn't really think about YouTube as like growing inside of a job, but it's felt like that a lot for me. Yeah. It's almost like moving through not through a corporation, but like, yeah, as you go into work every day and you get to know the ins and outs of your office or your department or your building, like you get better at these little things and those little things. And like, it's crazy how much you can lock in and like learn and get better at those little things or that little thing where you wouldn't have even thought about it at the start. And then it's like, oh, it actually turns out it's kind of important, you know, like, let me figure out how that works.
I feel very grateful that I still love it. Like every time we chat about it, I love talking with you about it. Like
I love it too.
Yeah. Which I feel very grateful for. Like there's very few things in your life. Like snowboarding is one of them. Like I've snowboarded for 20 years straight now, and I still like love geeking out with my homies. Like when me and Mikey talked about it, he's like, dude, yeah, like I learned like the way that if I like poke this grab, or like, oh, if you're riding switch, if you got like a little bit more like, you know, bend in your ankle, like you can take bumps more, like these little tiny minute things. Like I love talking about that. I love going shredding, and I love that. And it's just the same with YouTube. And like I feel so grateful that we can still have this like passion with our homies. And like I think one thing that I would love to do with my channel, like growing up in a small town of, you know, 3,500 people in Rossland, like there was some really great people in that town that I think brought as much of snowboarding to me as they could. Like my neighbor, before he got busted for a grow up,
Rossland, sounds about right.
Used to take all the snowboard videos at the shop that he worked for, the local shop, then was called like Kingdom, then it was called Las Vegas. Anyways, he would take the snowboard videos home and he'd burn them onto DVDs for me, and he'd give me all of these like just Sharpe written DVDs. So from I think like 2007 to 2010, I have every single snowboard movie from that year on these ripped off DVDs.
Sick.
So that's like something that really cool, and the shop owners there and like the local snowboard coaches like Scott Reynolds, Connor Martin, who run Central Snowboard Academy now, like they were instrumental in like showing me what snowboarding is and how to snowboard well and all that stuff. Like there's been so many individual people throughout it, but I was so separate from like what the true like snowboard community was. And then moving up to Whistler and getting to be a part of it and seeing like how many passionate people there are and how much knowledge they have, I've always wanted to take that and somehow deliver it to people who are in spaces in the world who don't get access to that, like don't have the opportunity for their parents to send them off to Whistler. Like not everyone has that opportunity.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel really lucky is like, you know, you and me can talk about YouTube, me and Mikey, Sean, Darcy, like all of our boys can chat about snowboarding. And I think not everyone gets that, you know, if you live in Richmond, none of your, I rode with some dudes from Richmond on the hill last week. Okay, and that's why I'm dropping their names so much.
Okay.
But you just don't get that opportunity to talk about snowboarding as much. And I think that's something that's really good about YouTube is it's like bringing all these people together. And like
from all over the world too.
Yeah. Because I'm sure anywhere you go, like you just see these people who have this crazy love for it, but just don't have the opportunity to get access to all this really cool information. Like I became such a better snowboarder being in Whistler. Like I thought I was a pretty good snowboarder. I remember like going to contests, being 12 years old and being like, yeah, like I'm going pro. It's no problem.
Yeah.
And then I came to Whistler and I was like, yeah, I'm probably not going pro. You know, like, I'm still going to go for it, of course. And I'm going to become the best snowboarder I can be. But like, there's so much, you know, more knowledge here. And like, I'm learning how to do all these different tricks. So
that blew my mind, honestly. When I came back from China, what it was like 2016, something like that, and I hadn't been home in like a really, really, really long time.
Yeah.
I remember going through and just riding Black Park, and like you talk about copying styles and things like that, like just watching people ride rails specifically, jumps not so much, but like rails specifically, I was like, whoa. And like how critical everyone is on like lock-ins and stuff like that.
Oh yeah,
you know, like
it's a different level.
I thought I could ride rails, and then I'd go do a front board and people would be like, ew. Yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? And they're like, it's all sideways and you're zeeched, it's soggy. And I'm like, I was pretty locked in.
Like it was 88 degrees.
Yeah, I felt like that was pretty good. And it's like, that totally changed the way I was shredding for sure. And it was like, whoa. And I remember, just the first couple of days, like really stepping back and like being like, okay, I was riding so much in these like communities in China where it was like very closed. Like we just had like our China shredder group, and then coming out here and seeing so many other people, I was like, whoa, it's crazy how different everyone views the sport. And like, but I mean, coming back to like relatable snowboard content, that's where all those discussion boards are. Like that's where people are talking about it, and that's where everyone's kind of being like, I'm from here, I'm from there, what's this like, what's that like? And
there's a lot of good there. And I think that's the tough thing too with like social these days. Like you're just seeing highlight reels out of every single hill.
Yeah.
That was the one thing that I really liked being in Whistler is like, sure, you see the edit come out, but like I've watched McMo go struggle on tricks all day long in the park. Yeah. And that is inspiring to me. Like, I'm like, okay, like he's out there, dude, and he's willing to suck in front of all these people, and he's willing to learn. Like I can go out here and, you know, fall in these jumps. Yeah. And like, he's going to get this trick at the end of the day that's going to make it in the video. And that's what people are going to see. But like, he's also going to, you know, try and fall a whole bunch. And I think that's a big thing about like being in that space. And hopefully through like the way we can do media now that we can show that a bit more. But
practice is always the most like best thing to watch. I always like whenever I go to a contest, like you'd get like small crowds for practice and like big crowds for finals. And I was always like, dude, you actually want to come out here and watch practice more than anything else. Like practice is the most fun to watch
for sure,
for the reason of like watching these gods struggle a little bit, but then also you just see the most rogue stuff, like things that you'd just be like, what was that? And like, is he alive? Yes. How impressive, you know? And you just see like crazy things go down. And that really is the beauty of Black Park, at least, or when it was like really, when it is really popping in like, you know, middle of the winter, and like you see the, you know, the Canada snowboard like training camps or whatever, it's incredible. It's so, I love watching practice. I love watching the guys like work a trick out in their brain or try and figure out like a new rotation or cork. It's so entertaining to watch, more so than a finals run, I think.
Yeah. And just seeing the mental side of it too, which I think is not always spoken about because like our current snowboard formats, like it's just about the action. And I think like that's the thing that I love about it is like us breaking it down and figuring out like how do you do these really hard tricks and what do you go through? Like that's kind of like that shorts format that I have. I call it like short stories because it's like it's talking about what's actually going on there more than just the trick and showing the backstory. And I think that's what is the struggle with today's like snowboard media is like people don't know why that's really hard or what those riders are going through. And we do. Like when I watched like, you know, Mikey's video part, like he told me how hard that video was, like that clip was.
Yeah.
Like they sledded out there 3 days and they got socked in twice. Then he, you know, fell on the jump 3 times. It was like binding was broken, end of the day, no light. Had to like really hone in and he made it happen. And it was a really difficult trick on like a really difficult jump in complex snow conditions, something. So I'm like, man, that is so cool. Like I can't believe you did that. If you don't know that, it just looks like any other trick.
Yeah, it's impressive, but
yeah.
The backstory, is it Solars now who's doing video part breakdowns?
A couple people have done them. Yeah, Solars did one. Craig's done some like behind the. Yeah. No, people are starting to like see. Hey, maybe people are actually interested in like what I'm going through when I'm out there doing this.
Oh, it's the best part.
Yeah,
it is really the best part. Like, and watching your homie like conquer a trick is like.
Oh, it's amazing.
So sick. It's so sick to see someone like finally land that thing they've been working on for so long. But yeah, it just comes out as this super polished, gorgeous video part that you're just like, banger. And it'd be like, it'd be nice to see the guys talk about it a bit more and be like, wow, it was really hard for like these reasons or those reasons, or I was scared.
Yeah.
You know?
Which I think needs to be like, most people identify with that because most people are scared, but they don't get to see that side. And that's where I think like the video part should still exist. And I really hope it lives its, you know, as long as snowboarding lives. But I just think like accompanying media with it. So like you'll film your video part, but then each day has like some behind the scenes video that then funds your season, you know? And you get to talk about like, okay, like this is why we built this jump this way. This is why it's hard. This is like what I'm going through. And not everyone has to do that, but like I see that as a really good way to like bring, you know, snowboarding to the masses, because no one understands what it's like to do a switchback 16 except for the 40 guys in the world that can do a switchback 16.
Yeah.
But everyone understands standing at the top of the jump going, I'm about to do something that is new to me and I'm really scared and I don't know if it's going to work out and how am I going to get through this? You know what I mean? And they also understand the feeling of I just did something that I didn't know if I could do.
Yeah.
And those two like universal emotions can pretty much reach anyone in the world, because everyone knows what it feels like to be scared and everyone knows what it feels like to accomplish something. And so I think like taking those things and applying them to snowboarding in the best way you can while still, you know, understanding how snowboarding works and making it cool. And it doesn't have to be corny, but, you know, like making it attract the riders in the way that it should.
Yeah.
I think there's something there.
For sure. And that just comes back to storytelling.
Yeah.
Like we were talking about kind of at the start of this podcast, is like it all comes back to storytelling.
Yeah. How to crack the code.
Sadly, most of the stuff we do see like that is kind of corny.
It's, and it's kind of that willingness to suck. Like I know like a lot of the shit I make, I'm like, oof.
Yeah.
Tough break. This one's going to hurt.
Tough break.
Yeah, you know, but it's going out there because like I know this one has to go out there for the next one to live, you know?
Yeah, that's how I felt about the Coastal vlog recently. Of just like, it's not my best work, but it's got to go. It's just got to go out there. And then I was really happy people liked it.
Yeah.
But that was one that, definitely putting out. I was like, okay, this has to go out there first so that the next 4 or 5 that are actually good can be out there. And it's hard. That
story's so common too. You'll like have a buddy come over and he's just clowning on someone. He's like, dude, look at this guy. He's like talking in front of the camera doing this stupid thing. Like he looks like an idiot. And then they're like, oh yeah, now he's making like 150 grand a year. And it's like, he's actually doing really well and his stuff's pretty good. But, you know, like he sucked for a while and people were like, man, you're definitely, this isn't good.
Yeah.
And then he figured it out and it was fantastic. But like, there's no way to get there without that.
Yeah, without the initial suck.
Yeah. And it's hard. And especially, I think it's really hard for professional riders to be like, okay, like, especially with snowboarding, because riders are so connected to their image and like snowboarding has to be cool. Like it's a big part of it being a counterculture. And to go try something different that is like kind of whack and different, like that's really hard because you're risking a lot as a rider that is, your image is tied to you getting those sponsors and to you like doing a lot, like they're putting a lot more on the line. Like I think I'm very lucky that I can be as whack as I want, and sure, it's a bummer, but like, you know, I have that freedom that my sponsor's not going to drop me if I make a stupid video, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So you're not really going to have any issue. It's just,
you
got to kind of live with it.
Yeah. My buddies are just like, dude, you're kind of a bummer. And I'm like, I know, sorry. I'm working on it. I'm trying to figure it out.
But then, I mean, like you say, it does go. And once it goes, it's like, Well,
yeah, you just got
should have played along, you know, like you should have been there for it, you know?
Yeah. Because a lot of like those first ones, like the people now are like, man, I really like that format. Like they didn't see the ones that I made before. Like before I actually committed to making videos 1 week here, I tried so many times to go film this thing or to like make this whatever, and it didn't work. And it was like too terrible to post. I couldn't even bear putting it on the internet. 'Cause I'm like, this is just heinous. It's the worst thing ever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, yeah, that willingness to suck and to be like, okay, these, you know, we'll get through that on our own side, and then we'll start posting things, and then, you know, they're not going to be great, but eventually they'll get there. And, you know, I do think there's a way that you can tell those stories in a way that really is like genuine and cool and satisfies, you know, the majority of the people, 80% of the audience that is snowboarding. Yeah. But you're not going to get there by, you know, just holding off. Like you've got to make a bunch of them.
Yeah.
This is me just telling myself to do this while I make shitty things. So
yeah. No, dude, you're making good things now.
Yeah.
Oh no, dude, the videos have been gorgeous. I always look at your stuff and I'm just like how are these not popping off harder? Like what's going on here? What's going on? What is everyone not like? How are these not pumping harder? It's really interesting.
Well, it just takes time, and I think audiences, like it's new for people, and I don't necessarily know. That's the other thing too. Like the algorithm does have to serve the videos to the audience, and they don't know what audience is for your videos besides like the different data you have on them. So if none of my videos have popped up before, they don't know which audience likes it. So they're just trying. And I think it really comes down to like, if my stuff's not hitting, it's just because like I haven't found that fit with the audience that people are, you know, attracted to, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is fine, because you keep working at it and eventually you get there.
Eventually it'll hook in.
Yeah. It's been tough this year because I feel like it's been the most I've ever been excited to make different content. And just like, that's the other hard thing with snowboarding is conditions are, you know, like you're at the mercy of whatever it is.
Yeah.
Luckily, like I can go hit side hits or go in the park. I'm not worried about filming a backcountry part or something like that, but it's still hard. You can't be pouring rain, and it has to be snow on the ground.
There's no snow. It's so terrible, dude. It's actually heartbreaking. There's just no snow. And what are we, like the 20th today?
Yeah. 18th.
18th.
Yeah.
And there's just still nothing up there.
Yeah, right to the top.
I went up with Cassie like a week ago, and we got to the top, and we're like, cool, right back to the car then?
Yeah.
And it literally went back to the car. It's just like, darn, like there is nothing going on up here.
Yeah, hard for morale, but it'll turn around always.
It always does. You know, it's just that week. That week it just pops off, and then everything's sweet. It just goes.
Yeah.
Well, Liam, thank you so much for coming in and talking with me today. If people want to find your videos, they want to see your amazing, epic snowboard content, where are they finding you?
Yeah, it's my name everywhere. Liam Stevens.
Liam Stevens.
Yeah, YouTube, Instagram, TikTok.
No dots, no underscores?
Maybe, but you'll find it. I think TikTok might have 2 dots. Yeah, if you search my name. I'm the only Liam Stevens snowboarder, so. And I don't really post on Instagram. I kind of just, you're going to find me on YouTube. That's where I am.
You will find you on YouTube.
Yeah. That's YouTube sees everything first, and it's definitely the place that I spend most of my time.
Hell yeah, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for your time, Liam.
Thanks, Doug.
Great talking with you.
You too.